So Elon Musk was throwing out some tweets here calling us on a sellout, and then Assassin's Creed. Sellout would be more accurate. Objectively, he's promoting a terrible game just for the money. And then Assassin's Creed said, is that what the guy playing your Path of Exile 2 account told you? Damn. And then Grums. I have no idea who this guy is other than some, like, anti-woke dude on Twitter, I guess. Decides to throw some tweet about Assassin's Creed not being the hit Ubisoft needs, and then he hits him out with the our game is out. I think this guy might have been like developing a game for 10 years and it hasn't come out yet or something. I don't know. I feel like I heard that about him, but maybe I'm mixing him up with somebody else, but rip. If you don't consider this to be classified info about imminent war plans, it may be that you're too partisan to recognize the truth when it slaps you around your tribal chops. If this had happened on Biden's watch, Republicans would have rightly gone berserk. From Piers Morgan. Team update. Time now. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are a go for mission launch. F-18's launch. Trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. What does trigger-based mean? Do you think that means they're waiting for like the go-ahead or something? It's not strictly scheduled. It's just like a window and then... Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. And first sea-based Tomahawks launched. Grams was part of a great game called Firefall, then it shut down. Now he's making another game, which has been in dev for like 12 years and sadly will amount to nothing. Damn. It's a conditional statement. Okay.
Oh, the federal law, he had to kill ivermectin hydroxychloroquine because under the federal law, you cannot...
You, my friend, are being scammed into paying for your TV channels.
What?
Here's how you can watch TV for free.
How?
No subscriptions, contracts,
I gotta get on
recurring
this.
or hidden fees. Although this sounds impossible, it's as easy as 1, 2. And if you're thinking, why haven't I heard about this before?
Yeah.
Well, as someone who used to work in the industry, I can tell you that these greedy people don't want you to know this.
Oh shit, that makes sense.
How would they make money out of you then, right?
Yeah.
That's why as soon as I got my hands on this device, plugged it into my TV, chose it as my main broadcast source, and saw hundreds of TV channels in crystal clear quality.
Oh my God.
Without paying a penny to a cable company.
Those weren't pennies. Okay. In stream disagreements to clarify the pistol thing if you... I don't care. Okay. Wait, what time does... Somebody said Trump joins this? At what time? Why would he... What even is this show? Vince? Should I know? The reason we had a stealth bomber shot down Yugoslavia was because they got exactly that kind of information by the same kind of air defense system that the Houthis use, by the way. Nice. Hello? Who linked this? When does Trump join? I'm not watching this. Oh, wait. Oh, you're lucky I saw
administration, and Democrats are very desperate to kick up some negative news against you right now. And one big item that we've seen in the last 24 hours is this piece out of Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic, where he claims that he was added to a signal chat between a bunch of your top officials. That's something that the White House has confirmed that somehow he ended up in there. There's an investigation going on as to how that occurred. But let me just start with that piece of it. Out of a country of over 300 million people, how is it that Jeffrey Goldberg, who hates you, ends up on this signal chat? Isn't that bizarre?
It is bizarre. And he's a, sleazebag about at the highest level.
Yeah.
His magazine is failing. It's going to be out of business soon, in my opinion. It's bad. It's too bad we give it a little boost like this. But somebody in my group either screwed up or it's a bad signal. It's a bad signal, happens to. But it seems to be maybe came in with a staffer, and it was by accident, from what we can tell. We'll know pretty much today, I think. But we have some pretty good guys checking out the phones. But it's something that is not a big deal, other than you want to find out who did it and how they did it, because you don't want to happen, in the future. You can't have that happen. But I've known him for a long time, and he is truly a sleazeball. There's no question about it.
The update we got this morning, the breaking news update this morning is yesterday, Jeffrey Goldberg was insisting that there were secret war plans that were discussed. There were plans, he insisted. And then just a short while ago, this morning, the Atlantic published some of these texts that they claim were war plans. And I noticed that in them, they refer to it, Secretary of Defense Hegseth is referring to known targets, but he doesn't say what the targets are. He just generically refers to them. Those don't sound like detailed war plans.
No, and there weren't details, and there was nothing in there that compromised. And it had no impact on the attack, which was very successful. It was a very, very successful attack. Then it's an attack that Biden should have done 3 years ago, but he didn't do it because it would have been a lot easier 3 years ago.
Talk about Biden.
But we're having very good luck on the attack. It's an attack that has continued.
Yeah.
But
bro, this guy's slurring a lot. Is he okay?
Maybe Goldberg found a way. Maybe there's a staffer. Maybe there's a very innocent staffer. But I think we'll get to the bottom of it very quickly, and it's really not a big deal.
Yeah. On the foreign policy front, you mentioned all these strikes on the Houthis. I know when you were elected, one of the key reasons is that you would bring about a peace in all of these big conflicts, in particular in the Middle East and in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Where are you most hopeful right now? Do you sense that one of these conflicts is more likely to end sooner than later?
I think I'm hopeful everywhere. Everywhere we're working, we're making tremendous progress in the Middle East. October 7th was a bad day, to put it mildly, and a lot of people were killed.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have been killed. But we're making great strides in the Middle East, and we're making great strides with Russia, Ukraine.
That's good.
Yeah, it sure seems like it. You're working with Democrats to some extent, although you don't need to at the moment. You've got the House and the Senate. But one of the things that I've noticed about these Democrats is that they don't have a leader. It's not clear who's even leading their party. So if you, Mr. President, were to try and negotiate with the Democrats today, who are you calling? Who would you even call to negotiate with that party right now?
Is he okay?
Well, nobody knows. They don't have a leader. They have a girl named Crockett who is...
he hates her.
There's something wrong with her.
Ooh.
She can't speak.
He wants to N-word that girl.
Speak.
He wants to drop it. He wants to drop that N-bomb.
She's... I can't see her going very far in politics. That would be a shocker. That would be a shock to the system. You have some young ones. You have AOC plus 3, I guess. They're hanging around. And, people are waiting to make their moves, I would imagine, like in the Democrat Party. But we have a party where we do have a leader. So strong leader, very strong.
That's right. And Jasmine Crockett, who you just referenced yesterday, video going around of her calling Governor Greg Abbott, who's in a wheelchair, Governor Hot Wheels. She's been called out for that.
Bro, these guys reminds me of people that fucking attack me, who all of a sudden pretend to give a fuck sometimes about, like, can you believe this horrible thing that was said about this poor disabled person? Like, these are the same people who are like, comedy is legal again, by the way. Like, come on. Are we being real right now? You're going to pearl clutch over this? Give me a fucking break. Oh, my God.
She later came out on Twitter, on X, and she claimed that she was actually just talking about when he was busing illegals around the country, which seems to me like a pretty brazen lie on the Congresswoman's part.
Well, it's a lie, and she lies, but she's a lowlife. And she's a very low IQ person and a lowlife. And I don't imagine the Democrats are going to have a person like that running their party. If they do, they'll never win an election again. It would be very hard. But I can't imagine she's going to last long.
And what do you think of Governor Gavin Newsom's? Sorry.
To be smart, you do need a brain. You can't get around with little quips. And I've watched her. I've only heard of her for the last couple of days, and I watched her make a speech, and she can't speak. And she truly is a low-level person on the very important chart of intelligence.
Yeah.
And really, it's nice to have intelligent people running your operation.
Yeah, it's somebody you can talk to, who you could have a good conversation with.
She was a comedian. I couldn't believe she was a congressman or whatever she is.
That's the actor?
No, I thought she was a comedian.
That's unbelievable.
And she was sort of a little bit funny, but crude. And now I find out she's actually a politician, which the Democrats are going to suffer with this one.
More like the dummy crowd,
Yeah,
right?
in some ways, finally, I kind of think that she's helping you in a way because Democrats are just all cartoon characters right now, and people are looking at you.
Dream.
Yeah,
She's a dream.
yeah, she really is.
Is he okay? Oh my God.
The President of the United States, Donald
Everyone,
Trump.
thank you.
Sir, it is such an honor to talk to you again. I can't wait to do it again sometime.
Well, good. We're going to do it, and good luck. And you're replacing a man. Maybe he'll be back there someday. But when I heard you got the job, I said they cannot have done better because you are terrific, and you're going to have a great career anyway. So whether you'll be there or someplace else, Vince, you're going to have a great career.
President Donald Trump, the absolute best. Thank you, sir.
The GOAT.
Thank you very much.
As some would say. Absolutely.
What an honor.
Goated.
What a complete honor to talk to the President of the United States. Great conversation.
My goat. Somebody said Ryan Grimm's new media, The Drop site, has done some crazy reporting on. Statement issued by the elders and Mukhtars of Beit Lahia, northern Gaza Strip. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Response to popular demands to end the genocide being carried out by the Zionist entity with full and direct support from the U.S. administration, spontaneous marches erupted in the steadfast city of Beit Lahia. I've never even heard of that city before. I thought aren't there 4 large cities in the Gaza Strip? Was this one of them? I could have just forgotten the name. It's like Khan Yunis, Gaza City, and then there are 2 others that it might be one of the other 2. Or there might be more than 4, and I just... Oh, there it is up here. Okay, yeah, there might be more than 4. So Drop Site's saying that the marches were because... the people, elders, and Mukhtars of Beit Lahia unequivocally declare their firm stance alongside the legitimate Palestinian resistance. They reject all treacherous attempts to isolate them from the broader Palestinian struggle or to portray it as separate from the revolutionary Palestinian movement. Revolutionary. The translation is false. Lonerbox covered it. Oh. People don't want Hamas rule. Hamas rule is over. The best words are less and less. All the people you see here, all the people who are here, the children, the mothers, the youth, don't want this rule. This rule destroyed our homes, destroyed us, killed us, destroyed all the people. And in the end, all the homes are ours. Wow, Mike Klum, thanks for the $20.
Afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. Since Inauguration Day, President Trump has secured trillions of dollars in private and foreign investments.
Oh my God.
Every single day,
More hype?
more money is pouring into our country, which will create more jobs for hardworking Americans. Today, Schneider Electric pledged to invest more than $700 million in the United States to boost American energy infrastructure and AI. On Monday, Hyundai announced a $20 billion investment in the United States, including $5.8 billion for a new steel plant in Louisiana, which will create nearly 1,500 high-paying jobs. President Trump is truly turning America back into a manufacturing superpower. Yesterday, President Trump marked National Medal of Honor Day by meeting with 21 of our nation's bravest heroes and incredible patriots who have been awarded the highest military honor. Beautiful picture.
Beautiful.
The president also signed a historic executive order to protect the integrity of American elections by strengthening voter citizenship.
I don't know, Ivan. Never held it before.
And banning foreign nationals from interfering in U.S. elections.
Wow.
These are the
So
common
brave.
sense solutions that only Democrats could oppose. But voters deserve elections they can trust, and critical confidence is being restored thanks to President Trump's leadership.
Thank you,
Later
Trump.
this afternoon in the East Room, President Trump will mark Women's History Month by honoring the exceptional women around our country, including the highly talented women in his administration and his cabinet. And on an additional scheduling update, the president will hold a press conference in the Oval Office today at 4 o'clock p.m. to announce tariffs on the auto industry. And I will leave that to him to make that announcement later.
It's not going to happen, guys.
Unfortunately,
Copium.
all of this
He won't
good
do
is
it, Copium.
happening for our country. This administration is working hard on behalf of the American public every day, but the mainstream media continues to be focused
More like the
on a
lamestream media, by the way.
sensationalized story from the failing Atlantic magazine that is falling apart by the hour.
True.
Here are the facts. The National Security Advisor has taken responsibility for this matter, and the National Security Council immediately said, alongside the White House counsel's office, that they are looking into how a reporter's number was inadvertently added to this messaging thread.
Oopsies.
We have said all along that no classified material was sent on this messaging thread. There were no locations, no sources, or methods revealed, and there were certainly no war plans discussed. The Atlantic has even admitted this themselves. Their release of these internal messages validates the truth, which we have been saying all along. If this story proves anything, it proves that
How patriotic
Democrats
and wonderful.
their propagandists in the mainstream media
True.
know how to fabricate, orchestrate, and disseminate a misinformation campaign quite well. And there's arguably no one in the media who loves manufacturing and pushing hoaxes more than Jeffrey Goldberg. Goldberg is an
Yeah, as a real quick thing, the admission that they're talking about is the title of the article called it like attack plans, and they're saying, oh, these were just attack plans. They weren't war plans. War plans are what are classified as attack. It's just the most ridiculous. Fucking. I don't even know what you would call this. Equivocation, I guess. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
anti-Trump hater. He is a registered Democrat. Goldberg's wife is also a registered Democrat and a big Democrat donor.
Like, what does this have to do with anything? Oh, so we don't trust it because they're. Why did you drag him in then?
Goldberg, who infamously lied about weapons of mass destruction to get us into the Iraq War.
True. It was him personally that did it. True.
And how else has Goldberg discredited himself? By absurdly claiming that President Trump was Vladimir Putin during the 2016 campaign. By peddling the Russia hoax that tried to hijack President Trump's first term. By inventing the suckers and losers.
Has this admin made you hate blondes also? No, what the fuck kind of question is that, bro? We already hate women here.
Help Joe Biden in the 2020 election. By peddling a hoax about President Trump involving Gold Star families to help Kamala Harris in the 2024 election, which our campaign at the time vigorously denied. Jeffrey Goldberg didn't care. There's more, but we don't have all day, and we can now add this signal hoax to this very long list. The real story here is the overwhelming success of President Trump's decisive military action against Houthi terrorists.
True.
On March 15th, President Trump ordered a series of military operations against the terrorist Houthis to defend U.S. shipping assets in the Red Sea. Restore
Something
freedom of
Biden never
navigation
did.
for international shipping,
Bring up Biden
and
again.
defend the
Hold on, I'm
United
edging.
States from
I need to hear the
enemy
Biden
threats.
thing. I'm edging.
United States forces successfully struck down dozens of targets across.
Also, fuck you guys in chat. Like, I've never seen anybody have audio problems like Destiny. All these motherfucking channels have audio problems. Kill yourselves.
Houthi-controlled territory. And as a result of these actions, several Houthi leaders were killed, including the Houthi drone chief, his deputy, and several of their drone experts and other key leaders. We also destroyed command and controlled facilities, weapons manufacturing facilities, and advanced weapons storage locations. And it's important to remember why this powerful action took place in the first place.
Because of Trump.
Because of Joe Biden's incompetence and pathetic weakness on the world stage for years. The Houthi terrorists grew emboldened. Immediately after taking office in 2021, Joe Biden removed the Iran-backed Houthis from the foreign terrorist organization and specifically designated global terrorist list. Did anybody in this room ask the Biden administration at the time why they made such a stupid mistake? This reckless action undid the designation put in place by President Trump during his first term, and what followed was predictable and devastating. The Houthis targeted U.S. military ships and aircraft, hit commercial ships, including U.S.-flagged vessels, threatened our personnel overseas, and attacked our allies in the region. This resulted in more than a year of U.S.-flagged commercial ships being prevented from safely sailing through the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Aden. This had a massive negative impact on global trade of the economic security of the United States. Joe Biden was the commander-in-chief
Joe
and
Binder.
he sat on his hands while the United States of America was bullied and embarrassed by terrorists.
Also, it doesn't matter. None of this matters. Sorry. I keep getting excited. I'm like, oh my God, look, I found a contradiction. But then I was like, oh wait, these people are irrational, so contradiction doesn't matter. Remember, the talking point over and over again was no new wars, no new wars, no new wars. So they said Biden ended a thing, and now they're starting it. Does this count as a new war? Are we going to say that this doesn't count as a war? They're just like attacks? Or maybe taking the position that like all war and all conflict is bad is kind of like fucking stupid. Maybe? I don't know. Who knows?
President Trump and his team are putting a stop to these threats in restoring American strength around the world. The Trump peace through strength approach means no terrorist force will stop American commercial and naval vessels from freely sailing the waterways of the world. But unfortunately, this is not what the Democrats and the media want to talk about.
True.
They are focused on a coordinated campaign to try and sow chaos in this White House. And this has been the most successful first 2 months of any administration ever, which is exactly why they are doing this. We are not going to bend in the face of this insincere outrage.
Okay.
And here's just one example of how bad faith the Democrats' criticisms are.
Okay.
Democrat Senator Mark Warner is hysterical over the use of Signal, which is an approved decrypted app, and the killing of Houthi terrorists. But Senator Warner himself used Signal to work with a lobbyist for a Russian oligarch to connect with it.
I love my daily propaganda briefing from my White House, from my own government. I always wanted to know, like, what's it like being in North Korea? And now I know. Now I feel it. Feels good.
To connect the disgraced Steele dossier author who started the Russia.
Destiny, war plans got leaked to a messaging app under Biden, too. Can you kindly address the difference? I don't know what you're leaking or what you're talking about here. It says, or I mean, like, I don't know what point you're trying to make when you say this. There was a leak. They said it was bad and it shouldn't have happened. And that was it. They weren't saying that, like, oh, well, it was no classified information at all, or, oh, nothing even happened here. I don't know where they said that the leak came from, but the guy's been leaking for the past hour. Like, the response here is completely and totally different. I don't know how you could possibly compare these two things. Just like reading this article is insane.
Hoax, which Jeffrey Goldberg later reported on. How ironic. We're not going to lose focus of the bottom line, which is that Joe Biden's weakness enabled and emboldened Houthi terrorists, and President Trump's strength and resolve eliminated those terrorists. Here in our new media seat today, we have Lindsay Keith. She is the managing editor for Merit TV and serves as
just a few things or whatever, I guess, just to hammer home these talking points. Signal is not an approved app for communicating secured information, so, like stuff that's marked with secret or higher classification rating. It's just not. So they keep saying Signal is approved for use for people in intelligence. That is true, the same way that people in intelligence are allowed to have conversations with civilians. But that doesn't mean you can say secret things or classified things to civilians. It's stupid. They keep trying to walk this line. But who knows? Maybe it's working.
White House correspondent. Merit TV launched 1 year ago and creates and distributes content across diverse platforms. We're glad to have you with us, Lindsay. Please kick us off.
Thank you, Caroline. I appreciate it and this opportunity for Merit TV. Two questions, if I may. One on Signal, one on the economy.
Sure.
On Signal, how comfortable is the president with what was shared so far now that the chain has been released?
The president's view on all of this remains the same today as it did yesterday. And I think it speaks volumes about the leadership of this president that he went directly to all of you, members of the press corps. He was asked, do you want someone else to go out and do a briefing? And he said no.
This narrative is 100% working for their base. They only need to slow the curve until this blows over time. I don't know. Remember, guys, you got to keep focusing on that 5%, that 10%. Because I saw even Portnoy, that's his name, right? Even he released a tweet thing today saying, like, oof, this was a fuck up, guys. And I would consider him a decent barometer for, like, normie, quote unquote, centrists who all ended up siding with Trump but aren't, like, total fucking sycophants. So
No, I will tackle this story. I will discuss it. The people need to hear from me about the situation. And so his thoughts on this remain the same today. He has placed great trust in his national security team. And as for the usage of Signal, as the president said yesterday,
Why do they keep going after Biden? Do they think he's running again? Shouldn't they keep saying Democrats? Well, I guess right now with the Democratic Party not having a strong, clear leader and so much of the MAGA messaging being built on negativity because they don't really have anything that they can brag about yet, any good accomplishments, they just have to continue to drive up negatives on the other side. They just go after Biden over and over again. As much as they can pin on Biden means there's less blame for the current admin, and that's really all they have to go on right now. Because there's really not much in the first 2 months that these guys have to show for anything other than a ton of executive orders. And I guess those border stats, which sounded good, although suspiciously good, but I don't know the context or whatever. But
as the CIA director has testified under oath, this is an approved app. It's an encrypted app. The Department of Defense, the Department of State, the CIA has it loaded onto government phones because it is the most secure and efficient way to communicate. As for, again, the original situation in this messaging thread, the National Security Council, the White House counsel's office continues to look in to how this mistake, which the National Security Advisor
Barstool is a super liberal platform. That's fine if it is, but Portnoy himself, I've heard him carry water for Trump before and kind of like go in on the Democrats for a lot of the Republican memes. So
owned occurred, and the president has ensured they are doing that. On the economy, consumer confidence hit a 4-year low this month. Can you help explain to the American people how tariffs will help them in the long run?
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm grateful for the question.
Thank you.
The American public will hear later this afternoon from the president directly on the topic of tariffs. And as you all know, April 2nd day, President Trump has proudly dubbed it Liberation Day for our country. What he means by that is
liberating us from our economy, yes.
Will be a day where the United States of America will no longer be ripped off by nations around this world. It will be a day where Americans finally see free and fair trade practices restored. We are no longer going to allow our allies, our competitors, and our adversaries to take advantage of American workers. And if you think about your hometown in the state that you grew up, Main Street looks a lot different today than it did many years ago. And President Trump wants to restore America as a manufacturing superpower around the globe. He wants products to be made right here in our great country with great, hardworking American hands that will ultimately result in.
Noah Rothman, senior writer for National Review, super conservative, has been nothing short of scathing for the admin. I think you have to be careful when you're talking about like the difference between like conservative and MAGA, because conservative and Republican have nothing to do with the MAGA movement. The MAGA movement is more akin to kind of like a cult. Now, most Republicans and conservatives bought into it, but like if you were a strong like conservative or something in values, like you wouldn't have bought into Trump, but chances are you would have disappeared. You wouldn't have survived the media environment, which is why people like, Glenn Beck, people who were, or a lot of people, all the Daily Wire guys who were anti-Trump ended up eventually coming into the fold.
Higher wages and more money in the pockets.
You basically, if you're a conservative, you kind of have to buy into the cult, because if you don't, you're going to lose your entire fucking audience. So.
The American people. And he's also, in addition to tariffs, also determined to pass tax cuts later this year, as he did successfully in his first term, to put even more money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans.
I like how they say pass tax cuts. They're not really talking about new ones, right? They're just talking about extending the current ones. If they were to extend the current Trump tax cuts, then the projections for the deficit and everything get even worse, right? Because right now, the projections and all that are assuming these are expiring because they have an expiration date. So it's just going to get even worse trying to balance their budget and everything. But okay.
Peter.
Caroline, if I can ask you very quickly about the information we've seen, just to set the predicate to all this. Has the president been briefed and physically seen he's seen all the details of the chat?
He knows everything.
By the
I just spoke to the president about it, yes.
Then let me ask you, if I can, very quickly. In the chat, Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, details F-18s, Tomahawks, so some of the weapons that were used. He details the timing involved for this.
You know, a Tomahawk is a steak too, right?
31 minutes before, as he says, F-18s would launch. The DoD manual details classified information as significant military plans, saying that is secret, that's classified. So what about, there are no methods, there are no sources, but that's not what determines what's classified. So what is it about what Pete Hegseth wrote that makes you say this is not classified?
Well, it's not just me saying that, Peter. It's the Secretary of Defense himself who is saying this as well. And he put out a very strong statement earlier today listing all of the things.
Oh, also, as a quick thing, now I'm not a I'm not dishonest, okay, like a fucking MAGA person is. So I'm not going to sit here and say things like, oh, getting rid of the FAA guys is what caused, the plane crashes or anything like that, right? I'm not going to blame stuff that quickly on the Trump admin, although they are making cuts in areas that you might think would go towards making these places safe or whatever. But there are a lot of small, like, day-to-day things that, quote-unquote, don't matter because you just assume they'll be done correctly, that when you start making these heavy cuts into, like, staff and, quote-unquote, bureaucracy, these horrible bureaucratic things, little things like setting up calls and inviting the right people to the calls and making sure people are doing things in a, in a compliance approved way. These are things that your little bureaucratic people help with. And I'm not going to say that their firings caused this recent mishap, but it's not surprising to see that an administration that has absolutely no value for process and procedure starts to fuck up things related to process and procedure, which is important. Not important. Process and procedure is essential.
That were not included in that message that he sent to the group.
What do you think of Trump being left out of the group chat? Do you think the Republicans can shatter the strong party they've enjoyed for years? So, I heard this was similar for Hitler, that he never signed anything exactly on his own. And I'm not saying they're trying to copy Hitler, but Trump is never personally involved with almost any of this stuff. I think that is by design. You're never going to be able to tie Trump's name directly to bad shit like this. He only ever does this stuff on the phone or in person. It was the same thing with all of the January 6th coup insurrection like stuff as well, right? Trump is never signing stuff. It's always other people signing it for him and everything. But he'll have personal conversations over it. But so that way you can never tie anything directly to him, or there's not at least like a paper trail to do it. That's why he loves talking on the phone so much.
And again, this message, there was no classified information transmitted. There were no war plans discussed. Why did the Atlantic...
No war plans, just attack plans. I can't believe they're running with this lie.
Downgrade their allegation about war plans to attack plans.
Oh
They're now
God.
playing word games because they know this was sensationalist spin from a
Unreal.
reporter who is well known for doing this. We have said all along no war plans were discussed, no classified material was sent. You have the Secretary of Defense saying that. You have the Director of the CIA, the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI Director, all testifying to that under oath, and they should be trusted with that.
To be clear,
Why does that distinction matter? It doesn't. It doesn't matter at all. But they're trying to lean into it like an attack plan isn't a war plan, so it's actually okay to talk. It's just stupid. It's intentional.
Americans can make the decision for themselves, but whether is the
Sure.
you said it's not war plans. Would you characterize these as military plans, military operation plans?
I would characterize this messaging thread as a policy discussion, a sensitive policy discussion.
Policy discussion? The policy of when to attack, which targets with what weapon systems? What?
Surely amongst high-level cabinet officials and senior staff. And I'm so glad, Peter, that you said the American public can decide for themselves, because I think the American public should decide for themselves based on the outcome of this.
Will anyone go down for this? Shouldn't multiple people go to jail / at least get fired? Yeah, I think they're trying to pin the blame on one dude, because I feel like I've seen at least headlines where some guy is talking about how Mike something, is it Radcliffe? I don't know who, but they're trying to say that like, oh, like this guy is 100% responsible and takes full accountability. So it seems like they found their fall guy. Oh, Mike Waltz, is that it?
For themselves, because I think the American public should decide.
Bro, every conservatard lies and lies and lies on Twitter. It's getting so boring to me, and it feels like no conversation is happening about anything ever. Should I just stop engaging with X? I seriously feel like a bloody event is coming. On X, you should only be there to retweet things that you like, and maybe like leave a meme comment, but don't ever get into a long form discussion or anything like that. Nobody. It's either a bot or a bot. Those are the only two things you're dealing with. You're either dealing with an actual bot, so some script or program or whatever the fuck, or you're dealing with a MAGA person who's essentially a bot, and they're just there to repeat conservative talking points. So that's it. It's just bots and bots.
Decide them for themselves based on the outcome of this operation. And what happened in this operation? Terrorists that were allowed to run wild by the Biden administration were killed because of the direction and the determination of this president and his team. And this message also shows, this messaging thread also proved that President Trump has an incredibly dynamic team who is working incredibly hard, flying all over the world to secure world peace and to fix up the foreign policy crises that the previous administration left for this team to inherit.
So to be clear, we all in this room and around the country would agree that we're glad no American service members were harmed, and we're glad that the mission was a success. We'll stipulate that.
Do you think it's dangerous to dismiss opinions as bots, even if some of it is? Wait, which bots? Which ones are you referring to? I'm just saying that for your own personal health, you shouldn't be arguing a ton on X. It's just not good for your mental health. It's going to drive you crazy, and you're not going to accomplish much doing it. I'm just saying for your own personal well-being, you shouldn't be doing it.
But the president said that Pete Hegseth said none of this was classified. So given the president has seen it now, and given the president understands that significant military plans are deemed classified as secret, how does the president view none of this, which details times and weapons and more, as being not classified?
I've already been asked and answered this question. The president's thoughts on this remain the same today as they were yesterday,
On what basis,
as
I'm asking?
well as the Secretary of Defense. This question has been asked and answered. There was no classified material discussed. Jackie.
On what basis I was asking?
Go ahead, Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. So why aren't launch times on a mission strike classified?
Again, I would defer you to the Secretary of Defense's statement he put out this morning. There were various reasons he listed, things that were not included in that messaging thread that were not classified. And again, going back to the American public, do you trust the Secretary of...
I could steel man some stuff, but this is just beyond the pale. You can't. It's just such an egregious, obvious fuck up. There's no way. Like, there are things that they could have talked about that they really shouldn't have. That it's like, if we're really stretching at the furthest reach, if we're really going to stretch, then maybe we can say that it wasn't. But like, this is just, it's beyond the pale. It's just, there's just no way. There's no way.
of Defense, who was nominated for this role, voted by the United States.
Why am I using 2 roboports per section? Listen, I haven't played Space Age yet. I don't know. But sometimes when you do huge things on your base and there's lots of bots flying from one area to another, it's just nice having more roboports for them to charge along the way. But maybe I won't need them. I don't know. It's my first time playing Space Age.
Senate into this role, who has served in combat honor.
Is there any example of an administration that leans into hating the previous admin as much as the current one that I'm aware of in my life as an American? Absolutely fucking not. Well, that's not true. The 45th president did. But aside from that, I don't remember hearing Bush talk about fucking Clinton over and over again. Did he? And I just missed it. You'll hear like conservative commentators do it, but the president and the administration, I don't think I've ever heard anything like this in my lifetime. Obama certainly didn't for Bush. Biden didn't for Trump.
Honorably served our nation in uniform, or do you trust Jeffrey Goldberg, who is a registered Democrat and an anti-Trump sensationalist reporter? This president and this national security team are putting our national security and the American people first. We are restoring American strength around the world, and the results of this operation speak for themselves.
Putting aside Jeffrey Goldberg.
Wait, somebody said bots don't get stuck anymore? You mean like if they don't have enough energy to make it across the space and they go back to the other roboport, they don't get stuck like that? If the roles were reversed, the only thing maggots would be talking about is how the VP explicitly said how he was hiding information from the president. It seems like no one is even talking about that aspect. Yeah, we'll read through the messages later, but it's obviously it's all ridiculous. Yeah.
Go just for for American.
Democrats are kind of just laying down and taking it though. I mean, what can they do? You have to pick your battles. I think that the CR shouldn't have been passed. I think that's the one major flub. But otherwise, the theory was, and I mean, hey, maybe they're being proven right. I think the theory was, listen, this administration is a fucking joke. Just let them do their thing, and they're gonna lose all on their own. That the Democrats don't even need to create opportunities or moments to fight, because this administration will lose all on their own because of just how reckless and insane they are. And I mean, maybe that theory will end up being proven true. Who knows? I guess we'll see.
Of this operation speak for themselves.
Putting aside Jeffrey Goldberg, though, just for American service members who are going to have to carry out these missions in the future, what I guess the message that's coming from the response to all this that we're hearing is that nothing sensitive happened, and I guess the logical conclusion.
Like, we still don't even know that. So, for instance, fuck, I had an analogy in my mind, but I don't remember what it was to. But I mean, I don't need an analogy. This got asked in a hearing earlier today, okay? And it references something that I said yesterday. When stuff comes out of a classified area, all of that information by default is considered classified. Even stuff that looks stupid and it seems like it shouldn't be classified. So for instance, if the CIA is working a confidential informant and they say something like, yesterday, yesterday, John ate a cheese sandwich, okay? Now, you might get that report that comes across some analyst's desk and it'll say, okay, John ate a cheese sandwich. Now, you might think, okay, and then that gets marked top secret SCI. And you're like, wait, there's no way that him eating a cheese sandwich is top secret information. Like, not only is that stupid, later on in that day, he literally confirmed that he like ate a cheese sandwich. So why the fuck? This is obviously not classified. Like, it should either be declassified or it never should have been classified. But the thing is a lot of the times the reason why, one reason why all these things are classified is because you're protecting your sources as well, right? Maybe the fact that he ate a cheese sandwich is something only 2 people knew. And if that information was publicly known, that the United States knew it, well, now the guy knows that, well, hold on. The fuck? Something just flew by my window. Somebody's informing on me. Much the same that maybe the movement of that particular target that they were after, maybe there were only a handful of people that even knew that guy was moving that day. Maybe it was only one person. Well, that source is basically burned now because they're going to be killed or not trusted anymore. So it could be that there's damage that's already been done due to things like that because now this is all public. So it's just so, God. It's also, I don't even know how I have to explain this. I think most people can arrive here like reasonably on their own. But
of that is that if these messages had gone out publicly prior to the launch, that wouldn't have been a risk to service members. I don't know that they're comfortable with that. So can you explain, had these messages been published, would the plans have moved forward? Would the launch have still taken off?
What I can tell you is that the President, as the Commander-in-Chief of our United States Armed Forces, and Secretary Pete Hegseth, who is an incredible man and a warfighter.
Can you explain what's the difference between this and the Clinton stuff? What Clinton stuff?
Taken off.
What I can tell you is that the President, as the Commander-in-Chief of our United States Armed Forces, and Secretary Pete Hegseth, who is an incredible man and a warfighter himself, take the lives of our American service.
What do MAGA followers believe right now? I'm out of the loop. How do they justify this? They probably just ignore it. They just don't think about it much. Or maybe they think, like, it was kind of a goof, but it's not a big deal. Biden's done worse. Remember, when you've convinced people that the other side has already done everything, then it gives you a lot more leeway to get away with a lot of bad stuff on your own because the other side has already done it. This is a big problem that I've said before with one of the issues with the left. Constantly saying that lobbyists own our government, that our system is failing and not working, that all this stuff, that when somebody actually shows up to actually attack the system, well, why the fuck are you trying to save the system that you yourself have said has been corrupt and broken for, decades now? That's why you got to be careful about how strong you go in on things. So this is the extent of how powerful and intoxicating populism is, I guess. MAGA defending and advocating for making our country look and act weak and insecure. Populism and crazy. Maybe. I don't know how much this is populism versus just culty stuff. Maybe all populists end up being cultists because you need that figure. I'm not sure. I really don't know. I mean, we saw in the book where we're at, right, that when Hitler was jailed after the beer hall putsch or whatever, that the Nazi movement was kind of falling apart because it didn't have a strong person to hold them together. So maybe the Nazi Party was also a bit of a cult, based on how the author Richard Evans describes the people that become captivated with Hitler's ability to speak and everything. It makes it seem like it, but
members with the utmost responsibility, and they would never do anything intentionally to put their lives at risk. And again, they are working hard on that every single day, and we are protecting our service members while also restoring peace throughout this globe. It's something the previous administration has not done. And I would just add one more point. We are not going to be lectured about national security and American troops by Democrats and
Benghazi. Bring up Benghazi and the pullout of Afghanistan. Yes.
Mainstream media who turned the other cheek when the Biden administration, because of their incompetence, left 13 service members dead in Afghanistan. And not.
How is Hillary's email server different? Hillary's email server, she wasn't conducting, or she wasn't trying to intentionally, she was never conducting secret, top secret business on the email server. That private email server was supposed to be for, I think, scheduling related stuff or personal, business related stuff, or political stuff that it wasn't classified information. That's why the big deal that they tried to get her on was that there were files on that email server that had ended up being retroactively marked classified, or some that was sent that were classified. Now she claims that the classification marking on the email was buried and she didn't see it. Whether you believe it or not is up to you, but there were tens of thousands of emails they went through, and I think it was only 120 or so, I think, that ended up being classified. So, I mean, that's up to the FBI. Didn't feel like they saw any intentional misconduct on there. So, whereas for the Signal group, they were obviously and intentionally, very much so, conducting what should have been classified meetings on an unsecured line, basically.
Not a single.
It's Putsch, like Putsch with a B, like Butch. Oh, Putsch. Okay, Putsch.
person in the previous administration was held accountable for that botched withdrawal. Joe Biden said, in fact, it was a great operation. That is despicable. It's unacceptable to this president and this Secretary of Defense.
Remember, more people died in Afghanistan under Donald Trump than they did under Joe Biden as well.
National Security Advisor has taken responsibility for this inadvertent number being added to the messaging thread. But above all, we take the lives of our troops, safety, security, prosperity around the globe with the utmost seriousness.
Goldberg's intentions, do you believe
Jennifer,
that he
go
would
ahead.
release that to embarrass the administration ahead of the worldwide threats?
Jennifer, go ahead.
Given what you've said about the president's trust in his national security team, can you say definitively that no one will lose their jobs? No one will lose their job at all because of this signal situation?
What I can say definitively is what I just spoke to the president.
And you know that how she deleted thousands of Mayo, you can't know she didn't have. I think you can reasonably infer that, given the fact that a whole bunch of extra emails were discovered on, I think it was Anthony Weiner's wife's laptop or something. That's when they announced that they reopened the investigation. And then you've got anybody that she was emailing, and nothing ever came out more, ever, that they'd found more classified stuff. They went through a lot of emails. Is it possible that nobody else, reported on it, or nobody else, sent a report to the FBI, or nobody else found out about it? I mean, I guess it's possible, but then you just have to admit at the end of the day, you just have no evidence for any of it.
And he continues to have confidence in his national security team.
One more, can I ask one more, Karen? On the targets in Yemen on March 15th, can you say were 100% of the targets that were planned for?
Also, I mean, I can't believe I have to point out the difference. The difference is that Hillary was willing to sit down with the FBI and do interview after interview after interview and make her personnel and her server and whatever was there available as much as she could to the FBI to cooperate with those investigations as much as possible. Donald Trump has never willingly sat down to answer questions about any of his conduct ever, and has just tried to stifle any investigation. That was why Mueller was appointed, was because Trump fired Comey because he was trying to end the investigation into his own conduct. So the behavior, the response to both events is not even remotely comparable.
March 15th, were they all destroyed? Because that would be an indication if some of them were moved or they were not all hit, that maybe perhaps some of the enemies were able to get some of the information in that signal strength.
What I can say about the operation is what the Department of Defense has put out there. I would refer to them for any further operational details. But there have been more than 100 strikes conducted against Houthi targets, and they have hit key Houthi leaders, air defense systems, command and control nodes, headquarters, weapons manufacturing and storage facilities. And these operations will continue until the freedom of navigation in our seas is restored and U.S. shipping can safely transmit without the fear of attack. And again, we believe that this has been a very successful operation thus far, and it will continue until this administration feels it no longer has to, and these terrorists have been taken out, which again is something previous administration should have done, but they didn't, and now we've inherited this crisis. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. I'd like to clarify something about the investigation and also ask about some conservative commentary. On the investigation, Mike Waltz said last night that he had spoken to Elon Musk about figuring out how Jeffrey Goldberg's number got in his phone.
People are running in the same old problem of not being able to distinguish in severity and magnitude, because in the abstract things seem the same with relation to Hillary's emails compared to this. It's so fucking doom repelling. Yeah, but I mean, it's not even that they can't distinguish the magnitude. It's that, like, Republicans and conservatives literally sold the idea that a whole bunch of evil, terrible shit was happening on Hillary's email server. Like, most Republicans or conservatives don't even know the facts of that case at all. They have no clue. And then Republicans will repeat the same retarded shit over and over again. Like, oh, they bleached the server, acid bit bleach, and blah, blah, blah. Like, these are like standard protocol for handling any device. Like, you can literally find these published and printed in manuals for how to discard devices. They weren't doing anything special for any of that. They just don't know the details or the facts of any of the things. And so they think that, like, the worst shit ever was happening. But then the question is, of course, like, where are the criminal charges? You investigated it. You talked about it for how long? Like, why didn't anything ever? Nobody ever asks that question, right? Why are there no criminal charges?
You mentioned the NSC and the White House counsel's office investigating. Can you just clarify who is investigating, who's leading that? And also, Dave Portnoy, who endorsed President Trump, said today that he thinks that Mike Waltz should leave. Could you respond to that?
Sure. Great respect for Dave Portnoy, but I just answered that previous question from Jennifer. As for
even Rob Knorr is not on board with the current COPE. Yikes, that's a bad one.
Your original question about who's looking into the messaging thread, the National Security Council, the White House counsel's office, and also, yes, Elon Musk's team. Elon Musk has offered to put his technical experts on this to figure out how this number was inadvertently added to the chat.
Yeah.
Again, to take responsibility and ensure this can never happen again.
Wait, why do they have to take responsibility and ensure it never happens again? They just said nothing classified was there, so it shouldn't matter, right? No?
Two questions. One on a follow-up on something you just said, but since we have these messages released and you said that the president has now personally reviewed them, at the chat at one point Pete Hegseth wrote 14-15 strike drones on target, and in all caps he said, "This is when the first bombs will definitely drop." Does the president feel that he was misled by his national security advisors, whoever it was that told him there was no classified information in there, now that he's seen these messages?
I've now been asked and answered this question 3 times by the both of you, and I've given you my answer. The president feels the same today as he did yesterday.
Okay.
Philip.
And on my follow-up on what you had just said.
Go ahead, Philip.
Caitlin,
I'm not taking your follow-up.
I have a follow-up on something you just said, though, Caroline. That's
Caitlin,
regarding
I'm not
Jeffrey
taking
Goldsberg.
your follow-up. Philip, go ahead. I've called
Thank
on
you. The vice president seemed to express some frustration that Europe wasn't doing more to police waterways in their backyard, noting in that signal thread that 40% of European trade goes through the Suez Canal. Does the president share that opinion and frustration? And then going forward, should the Europeans be responsible for policing that waterway?
Well, the president was asked this question yesterday by the pool in the cabinet room, and he answered this question. He said yes, he believes that Europe has been, as the vice president put it, freeloading on the backs of American taxpayers and off the backs of the United States of America, and he wants to ensure that Europe pays their fair share. He's always been very honest and upfront about that, and I think the vice president shares those concerns with him as well.
And then one more.
Sure.
Enlisted soldiers, sailors, and Marines would face consequences if
Oh my
they
God.
shared
Why are
this
you
type of
harassing this
information
poor lady?
inadvertently with a reporter. Can you tell us more why the president is so willing to give Mike Waltz a mulligan here?
Again, I have now been asked and answered the same question
Come on,
using different
guys.
language multiple times. If anybody has another question, there's a lot of different things going on in the world. We have tariffs possibly being implemented later today. The president is going to talk about that at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for taking my question. I wanted to first and foremost thank the administration for the election integrity executive order, because so many journalists for 4 years were banned from talking about this very subject. So thank you to the
Really, though?
administration
Were they really?
for that. My question is, yesterday President Trump, when signing the order, said that there is more to come when it comes to election integrity. Would that include
Hi, what's up, buddy?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
I'm just for a little bit. Can you do me a little favor?
Yeah, what's up?
And show. I have sent you the link on Twitter. I think you can show it on stream if I send it that way. Yeah. This is just. Oh fuck. I gotta run. Drone. I will call you back.
Okay.
include same-day voting and hand-counted paper ballots? And why are Democrats so against election integrity measures like obviously proof of citizenship when it comes to voting in the United States?
I think Trump signed an executive order. I don't know if he can actually do this, but he signed an executive order saying that, I don't think it was the voter ID thing. I think it was saying that all the election votes have to be turned in and counted. Was it counted by election day? Or was it just all the votes have to be done by election day? Which I think is, I thought was already the law in every state, but...
States election.
Well, it's a very good question. You'll have to ask the Democrats why they're against so many common sense things, not just mandating voter ID. Why are they against men and women's sports? Why are they against deporting foreign terrorists from American soil who have been designated a foreign terrorist organization?
He obviously can't. Well, apparently the Congress does have the right to mandate some things in regards to the election, the federal ones, because I think Congress, so like you have to be a citizen to vote. And I don't think a state can overrule that. Like a state can't allow non-citizens to vote in federal elections.
mandating voter ID? Why are they against men and women's sports? Why are they against deporting foreign terrorists from American soil who have been designated a foreign terrorist organization? I'm referring to Tren de Aragua. As for the election integrity executive order that the president signed yesterday, this is in an effort to restore trust in American elections. There were more than 10 steps taken, 10 executive actions taken throughout this one order. It directs the department, or the attorney general rather, in Homeland Security to prevent non-citizens from any involvement in administering elections. There's also another host of actions. We can provide the fact sheet for you, but it's a very strong election integrity executive order, and the president would also like to see Congress do something about this very important issue.
Okay. Hello, hello?
Hello, I'm back. I wasn't killed. Yay.
Oh, that's good.
It was very close. I heard it from the window, so I had to go. Anyhow, point is that a friend of mine got like pretty severely injured, and the cars got destroyed, 2 of them, which are the cars that your community buys for this particular brigade. The brigade is in Kupiansk region, which is like Kupiansk is in Kharkiv, in Oblast, in my part of the country.
Okay.
So yeah, I just wanted you to show like this first clip and maybe second one, because many people in your community as well ask questions like, why do they need cars? Why do they need cars all the time? So yeah, if you could show them, there's no gore there, like nothing bloody.
It's the tweet that you linked me?
Yes, the last thing I linked to you. They have like a two videos of how the cars look after FPV drone attacks.
Okay.
So yeah, I would just appreciate if you could, you know, show people what's up.
Let me finish.
I covered it.
Go ahead.
I covered the car for them already, so it's not a fundraiser. I had previous money left from Fuck Elon fundraiser.
Okay.
For like the one I did, which thank you very much, for antennas and like routers and things like that, Mikrotik tech to basically cover internet in some parts to avoid using just Starlink. And because we can't, you know, really trust that shit, obviously. So yeah, so I have some money left for that, and I used it to buy another car. But yeah, but just I get those questions like constantly, so I think it would be cool to show. Other than that, I'm back to the corridor. Have a nice stream.
All right, we'll watch it as soon as we finish this press conference. So
thank you. Yep. Yeah, bye. It's short, like a couple seconds. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Sure, go ahead.
Caroline, the Republicans and Democrats alike have been expressing some concern about the frequency with which senior Trump officials have been using this Signal app. Has there been discussion, or will there be a review about how often they use Signal, and if you could explain to us
more Signal questions,
how they might be considering other applications to get away from something like this happening again?
Sure. Well, again, first of all, Signal has been an approved app for government use. It's an encrypted app, and as I said, it's the most safe and efficient way of communicating, especially when people can't be in a skiff or inside a room physically together. I think, as the president said yesterday, he wishes that everybody could be in the room, and it's our goal to ensure that everybody can be. But again, no classified information was discussed.
Like, just think about like how crazy it was that there was a guy who was in Moscow, potentially even in the Kremlin, like looking at these messages. That's just insane. Think about like, oh God, there's so many different reasons why this is so bad. Imagine imagine you work for like the State Department, you work for intelligence, and you go to visit Moscow. If I'm Putin, I know now that maybe I could gain access to highly classified information by abducting and torturing and taking just the cell phone of some intelligence operative or somebody with a classification designation. Because I know now that all I need is Signal on the fucking phone, and as long as I can do the Face ID or the thumbprint to get in, I can now potentially get dragged into rooms or be in rooms where these conversations happen. Like, it's just so bad for so many different reasons.
discussed in this chat, and anytime classified information is discussed amongst high level of administration, secure lines of communication are used, including, by the way, our special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who I understand the Wall Street Journal erroneously reported that he was on this Signal chat on a personal device while in Moscow. That is absolutely false. Steve Witkoff did not have his personal device, nor did he have his government device with him. He was given a classified, protected server by the United States government, and he was very careful about his communications when he was in Russia. So rest assured, the American...
He was given a classified server, a whole ass server. He was just carrying it around in his back. What does that even fucking mean? What? What?
Public, this administration is taking every precaution when it comes to protecting our national security, and that's why the American people reelected this president, because they know that our national security is in good hands with the President of the United States. Speaking of the Vice President, I understand he's going to be speaking any moment now. I would hate to counter-program the Vice President of the United States. You'll also hear from the President at 3 o'clock. He will be honoring women's history at the Women's History Month celebration. We have a lot of great women across our cabinet who will be in attendance, so we'll see you all there. And then you'll also hear from the president again at 4 o'clock when he talks about tariffs. So plenty of time for more questions. Sorry it's a bit shorter today, guys. We'll see you later.
Jesus, that was rough.